On a wet Tuesday in Greymouth, a 1-minute audio clip climbed out of a dead radio station's feed and into a handful of phones that still subscribed to ghosts. There were no words in it, only a mechanical hum, steady and patient, like a neon tube refusing to die. 30 hours later, a man was found fully dressed in his bathtub. No water. No wounds. On the fogged mirror above him, a single thumbprint dusted in yellow pollen. That was the first breath of a case that would force a city to learn how to listen. Detective Mara Oduwale kept a private ledger of small, unsolved weirdness. Payphones that rang at 3:11 a.m., our hands vanished from public clocks, 6 moths arranged by size on a courthouse windowsill. She wrote Hummingbird on the spine the day she met the hum. Victim 1, Emery Holt, municipal electrician, routine life. Came back clean on talks, clean on struggle, and confusing on everything else. The transistor radio beside his bed was tuned to static. Pollen dust rested in his nasal cavity like the faintest suggestion of a season out of place. Each week after, another clip arrived on the same forgotten feed, and each week another body turned up posed not like someone who had fought, but like someone who had been made to listen. The hum wasn't identical from week to week. There were transients, small sounds that caught in the teeth of the spectrum analyzer, a shoe squeak, a faraway drip, a breath in bar 4. Audio forensics mapped the echoes to different rooms in different buildings, tiled surfaces one time, a high ceiling the next, ductwork that sang like a cheap flute. The victims shared one odd detail: every one of them had filed a public complaint about noise. A neighbor's bass line. A church generator. A nightclub subwoofer. Revenge would have been simple to name, but the scenes were ritual, not rage. At each one lay an analog relic, a cassette spool, a broken metronome gear, a snapped guitar string. No message, no manifesto, only the hum and a series of rooms chosen for how they answered back. Mara made the mistake of listening to clip 3 alone. Halfway through, the hum wavered just enough to show its ribs. Underneath was a breath count: inhale, exhale, 60 beats per minute, unwavering. Human lungs go ragged. This did not. She wrote in the ledger: trained diaphragm, singer. Diver, someone who rehearses silence until it obeys. The next victim was found upright in his office chair, windows taped from the outside, HVAC panel blinking 0.0 as if the room had been taught to forget how to move air. The coroner called it apnea without cause. Mara wrote a line beneath: "'Cause is cause. We just don't recognize the instrument."
When the 4th clip arrived, a faint chime ticked every 13 seconds. Coin to payphone return slot, said a university archivist with an ear for museum pieces. Greymouth had 3 payphones left. Police posted at each one, microphones primed, decoys on rotation. At 3:11 a.m., all 3 rang at once. Each receiver carried nothing but breath, the patient hum, and the tiniest click, like a throat deciding not to speak. 2 women laughed and hung up. One stayed until sunrise, certain she was keeping a stranger alive by refusing to end the line. A week later, she became victim 5. The city finally had a name to fling at its fear: the hummingbird, an elegant predator whose heart beat too fast to see. Behind a bricked wall in the oldest concert hall in town, boardmen, officers found a room built like a negative of a recording studio. Reel-to-reel decks spooled into open air. Speakers faced inward, not out, to carve a pocket where sound died. Tape on the floor marked a circle of perfect hush. At its center lay a hummingbird skull painted gold, more reliquary than ornament. On the highest shelf sat a casebook of Greymouth's noise complaints, clipped from public record and annotated in crisp graphite. Teach them to listen. This was not a studio. It was a temple to control. When the department broadcast the clips in full, tips poured in. An ex-audiologist recognized the way certain rooms swallowed certain frequencies. His files drew a line to a contractor named Harlan Muir, once hired to quiet the city, later blacklisted for proposing sound discipline zones around libraries and testing centers. Muir was gone, but his garage held maps with pencil hearts around quiet spaces, prayer rooms, exam halls, reading rooms, labeled cathedrals of hush, wounded by untuned lives. It was a philosophy disguised as maintenance.
Clip 6 broke the pattern. No hum at first, only room tone with a street festival bleeding in from far away, drums, whistles, a child shrieking with delight. Then a polite tenor voice, "Breathe with me." A woman echoed him in perfect time, a duet of air that lasted 60 seconds and ended with a click. There was no body that week. Instead, the paper received an unsigned letter. The victims died of their own noisy hearts. I will leave one alive to prove this is salvation, not harm. Mara understood then that they were not hunting a compulsion, they were answering a thesis. On the 7th week, a citywide PA test hiccuped and played 1 minute of pure, perfect silence. Not empty silence, full silence, the kind that presses on your chest like a hand. People froze mid-aisle in supermarkets, halfway upstairs in apartment buildings, elbow to elbow on buses, each suddenly listening for something that might or might not be there. When the minute ended, 1,000 alarms stacked on the same second and howled together. Panic is contagious. So is quiet. Mara returned to Boardman, stood in the inward-facing speakers, and breathed 5 in, 5 hold, 5 out, the duets count. "What do you want?" she asked the dead room. The powerless HVAC clicked on. The room inhaled. A folded note lay by her boot that no one admitted placing. The ear is a muscle. Greymouth is weak. Train them. Months later, a woman walked into the precinct lobby carrying a cassette. She was pale in the manner of someone who had been underwater for a long time and learned to prefer it. "He left me in the quiet," she said, voice even, eyes too still. "He wants you to hear what he teaches." The tape contained no instructions, no hum, no duet. Only the city rearranged into a metronome, bus hiss, shoe scuff, pen cap, crow hop, breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, ordinary noises ordered until they felt like obedience. "Did he hurt you?" Mara asked. The woman thought for a long time, then said, "He made me count. Until the counting counted me." There was never a signed manifesto. The Hummingbird built one you could stand inside. He didn't silence people, he tuned them. And once a city learns to hear itself, it can't unhear. Whoever controls the counting controls the breath. The internet made a villain out of a theory. Reddit threads mapped acoustic clues like treasure hunters. Podcasts debated whether breath control could weaponize panic. Short videos dared viewers to hold their breath through the clips. Drones hovered over Boardman's roof at sunrise as if a shadow might confess. A channel called Unconfession posted a single upload, a gold-painted hummingbird skull on black and 1 minute of hum. Comments were off. Mara wrote a counter-thesis in her ledger, "Noise is a citizenship." On a night when the grid hiccuped and emergency lights woke with a soft electrical moan, she climbed Boardman's stage, faced the circle of inward-turned speakers, and spoke without a microphone into the dead zone at the room's heart. Listen to the ones who don't have the luxury of quiet. In the field recording that lives in a corner of the web you only find if you know which dead feed to follow, there is a soft, almost amused exhale after she says it. It could be her breath. It could be a man with a gold bird skull in his pocket, listening from the rafters. Or it could be Greymouth itself, relieved to discover that silence is not peace, it is pressure you survive.
The hum returned a week later on an amateur frequency, steady, patient, a mile marker for people who measure their days by what they can still hear. If you stretch the spectrogram and sharpen the edges, you can find a coughing laugh in the noise, and a voice you hope is not your own, counting the breaths. Somewhere in the city, a man is building another room that teaches obedience by offering relief. Somewhere else, a woman is learning to love the sound of a crowd because it means she is not alone. And at her desk, Mara closes the ledger and listens, to elevators coughing into motion, to fridge compressors pretending to be helicopters, to late-night tramlines singing before you see the car, mapping a city by echo, understanding at last that the first skill of survival is to know when someone is trying to tune you.